Welcome to another episode of VGN Weekly. Members of the Virtual Grip crew will recap the previous week's races and bring us one-on-one interviews with racers, league owners, and commentators, as well as others from within the sim racing community. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. Thanks for tuning in today. Now let's go find some grip.
As the Virtual Grip Network gears up for another action-packed week of racing, let's take a quick look back at last week's race winners. Despite spinning out on the first lap, J.R. Shepard was able to dominate the race, leading for 31 laps and ultimately securing the win in Yesteryear Racing's IROC Series. Brendan Myers led for a large portion of the early race and regained the lead on the final lap in the Bootleg Racing League's Outlaw SK Modified Series. Kurt Smith led the race from flag to flag, claiming the last win of the season in the Bootleg Racing League's Late Model Series. James Lowe dominated the season, taking the season championship in both Bootleg Racing League Series on Saturday night. Josh Robinson used his tire management skills to gain the lead in the late race and secure the win, outlasting the drivers who pitted for new tires in the OBRL Cup Series. And Justin Michael dominated the last race of the season to clinch the season championship in the Maximum Velocity Racing League's ARCA Series. Now we'll take a quick break before turning things over to John Hine, who's standing by with this week's special guest, Mark Hertzog from the BRL.
Welcome back to VGN Weekly. I am your host, John Hine, and this week I am going to be with a BRL regular. His name is Mark Hertzog. Mark's first start in the BRL came all the way back on April 28th, 2018. Since then, he's gone on to 220 starts. He's got 9 wins, 85 top fives. Doesn't have a championship, but we're going to find out the why there. Mark's not always usually a full season competitor, but when he's on the track, he is usually one of the guys to beat. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. How are you guys doing today?
Doing fantastic. Well, you know, we've kind of wrapped up another season with BRL where they're about to start a new one there coming up here. So kind of recap your season for me, kind of some highs and lows for you.
I think I got a win this year. I don't. The bad part is I'm not able to make a lot of the Saturdays because during the summer times we got tickets to a couple local soccer teams, so that's why I'm not here most
Nice.
Saturdays. But when I show up, it's a pleasure to be able to run with you guys because Lowell and the gang put on a really good show and a really well run series here.
Wow, that is really cool though. But getting outdoors and doing something, you know what? There's a lot of folks that do that over the summer. But you picked up a win this season. You said though, hey, where'd you pick that win up at?
I honestly don't remember. I know it picked up. I don't know if it was this season or the previous, but it did give me a chance to get into the special race in September that John Lowell does a
That's
shootout.
Yeah, the shootout that the BRL does every September, which is always fun. It's all the race winners and past champions
Past
and things like
champions,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So, well, not remembering where the weight came from, but tell me this. This season, I don't think you ran a full schedule, like you said. You had some other commitments to go see. Is it? Do you pick and choose the tracks based on availability, or do you kind of pick for the ones that you kind of like?
Just if I'm able to run this Saturday, I'll get there if I can get there. Track doesn't matter to me as long as I get a chance to run with the guys.
Do you have any kind of like favorite tracks? Like one when you
Oh
see it on
yeah,
the schedule, you try moving your personal schedule around to try to make it. Yeah, do you have any of those?
yeah. There's a few Five Flags I really like. North Wilkesboro is a really good. I really enjoy that one too. I don't. They don't go there very, very, very often, but Richmond's is a good track I like to run too. So
Yeah. Anything about particular about those tracks? I mean, do you feel like it just is it a driving style that it kind of suits? Is it just visually kind of
um,
what you like? I mean,
I
what is it
like
about?
because you can get both lines working usually at those tracks. If
Yes.
everybody's amenable and you got guys that are willing to give you the space, you can get both lines to work and you can run some side by side for quite a few laps. And that's always fun is when there's more than one way to get around somebody, or you can have those door to door battles for multiple laps.
Yeah, everybody's amenable. um, I giggle because you know what? You probably come up behind me, and I probably been one of those guys that didn't seem too amenable. So, I mean, you're right about that. But having the second lines and things like that though gives you options, and that's those are. I agree with you. Those are the tracks that I think are the most fun. Um, are there tracks that you see on? It's like, oh, I need to really see if I can put something here on this date, so I'm not running that track. You have any of those?
No, not so much. I mean, you got to kind of go with what the track gives you. You know, if it's a one lane track, then yeah, some days you got to be patient. And if they make a mistake, let you by, you can get by. But if sometimes you just got to realize I'm not going to get around somebody, and I'm going to have to run where I'm running. No sense in pushing it and maybe wrecking him or wrecking both of us, or
I've
and
got
getting other people involved if that were to happen.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, the BRL runs on Saturday night, and the two cars that are the primary cars are the SK modified and the late model stocks. Um, I see you've run both. Do you have a preference to one or the other?
Um, Probably the late model. I do like the SK. If I would prefer that if they ran the tour, just because it's got a little more horsepower, so it gives you a little more options on where you can run. Because some of the larger tracks, it does get to be like a drafting track for them.
Yes. Yes. I kind of wonder if that new tire model that they're kind of shifting through. I was able to run it with a DPI car, and and even the pro late models, the tire fall off with whatever tire model, like because I don't think they have the same tire models on. And I kind of wonder what those SKs will be like if you actually get genuine tire wear in them.
Yeah, other than
Um,
just heat.
Yep, yeah, rather than just heat, because when you run the late model, we generally on Saturday night you guys run 100 laps. You have to look after your tires for the first part of that race, or
Yeah,
you're going to be, uh, up the creek without a paddle, so to speak. Those last 10,
exactly.
15 laps. So, um, you said you prefer the late model, with that little bit of, is that tire model part of what you kind of, why you lean more to them because
Yeah,
you
that,
do
and they're
have to
usually
bring,
they're a bit longer than the SKs. The SKs, I think it was at 60 laps. Still, the late models are
yeah,
100. So the tire management does come into play there, especially if you get a lot of green flag laps, you can really abuse them trying to get by people early. And if it stays green for a long time, you get to pay for it at the end.
I think the SKs went back to 100. You know what? I've run a
Oh,
few of them. You know what? I've never really paid attention when I've gridded in those things. I just green flag goes. I go until it tells me to stop. So late models, you got to pay attention to the laps because of the tires. Um, you know, that longer race. You have to run it differently. You have to strategize, and BRL is a unique. Um, well, it is unique for how they grid their races. How you finish one week
exactly.
determines how you're going to start the next, but they do an invert. So if you win, next thing I think you're back to 12th, 13th this season or whatever the rule was this season. So you're going to have to pass cars. So my question would be, when you get in that late model and all of a sudden you're sitting around 10th on the starting grid. Do you approach that race differently than when maybe you hit that invert and you're maybe on the front row, maybe second row?
Oh, most definitely, because I've gotten to the point now where I'm willing to take my time or take what's given, not try to get to the front right away. And especially with the late models, and if you try to get to the front and you got to make a lot of passes, you tend to end up burning up that right front or that right rear, depending on if we're tight or loose or going in. And so I'm a little more patient, not always to my detriment, but you try to work and take what's there, and then try to get a couple of spots on the restarts if there's restarts, because that's where you got the side by side. So if you're on the correct lane, you can get a couple of spots on that restart.
Yeah, and that is always a good opportunity because you can do that and maybe not use a lot of your tires on those restarts, and sometimes those do get a little crazy. But you talk about the patience thing because there's a handful of you guys that from when I've broadcasted those races to even when I've been on the track with you guys, and I'm in this category too, where maybe I don't want to say lack of patience, but the overarching goal of getting as far up the grid as you can, quickly as you can. I think there's a lot of guys that do that, and it is exciting to watch because you guys tend to try to make things happen through the field. Um, where did the light bulb come on for you to say, well, you know what, maybe I need to pull the reins back a little bit here and be a little more patient at 10, 15 laps?
Probably when the guys that I passed 15, 20 laps ago were passing me because I used up my tires. you know. So as you get old age and wisdom, right? Sometimes not. But I've learned that it's sometimes a little better to wait a lap or two and see if they're going to make a mistake before instead of pushing it.
Yeah, there is no feeling like passing a guy, watching him basically disappear in your rearview mirror. 10 minutes later, he's knocking your bumper off because you're holding him up and he needs to get around you. Um, I've been there. I know a lot of people have been there. That is such an interesting moment in time when you kind of realize that. And kudos for you for I guess learning to do that because I know I struggle a little bit and maybe a couple of others. It's just the race goes and there's a disconnect between the brain and the foot.
Yeah.
And you know when you is the same thing for you with those late models? Is the same kind of tracks that you kind of like the two groove, like for those late models too?
Yeah, I like two groove tracks because I think it's good for everybody, and it gives a chance for everybody to make some moves, not have to wait for somebody to maybe make a mistake or spin out or just get too aggressive and cause that oops moment where you end up taking three or
Yeah.
four cars with you.
Yeah. Well, when there are two lanes, it gives you options. Do you consider yourself kind of a bottom feeder, or do you like to kind of get up top and roll the top?
I'll roll the top because you usually, even if it's a two groove, a lot of guys don't like going up there because I don't know if they just get uncomfortable or they just don't like being up there, but I don't mind going up there when it's working and trying
Yeah.
to get
Well, the
around
the
people.
margin for error on top, I think, is a little bit
Yeah.
smaller because
You're
it,
dependent.
you,
One, you've got to keep yourself off the wall, and two, you got to hook
yep.
the guy on the inside. At least
Well,
gives you that lane.
not even off the wall. You got to keep yourself out of those marbles because those marbles are what take you to the wall. If you get
Yeah, yeah,
out, and that's a kind of a cool thing about iRacing. They just like real life, they simulate those marbles. If you get into them, all of a sudden you're cranking that wheel and that nose is just going right to the wall. So yeah, less room for air, but I too, I like the top. A lot more fun. The runs that you can get off the top are sometimes just, it makes you feel
Exactly.
good when you feel like you're shot out of a can. The guy to the inside, you just go right on by. Um, yeah, those fun to do. Um, how long have you been part of iRacing?
My membership says I'm going on 11 years, but I've only
Oh,
been active since about when I started running at the BRL.
so about
So
2018. So about six
yeah.
years now, somewhere in there. Well, I always like to ask folks that have been the pre-COVID crowd. So there's a bunch of folks that came in during the COVID era and are still with us, which is great. But I like the pre-COVID guys because that means you've seen a lot of change. I've asked folks on this show quite often because I'm always fascinated. Um, the updates, we just had a massive update this past week. All the new things that have come out since you started, what is the biggest game? What has been the biggest game changer for you?
Oh, I love tire limits. I love being able to run short tracks with no cautions or yellows don't count. That's always good. Um, and the being able to have the day to night transition is awesome. When you're running a late afternoon race and it gets dark and the lights come on. For me,
Yeah,
and the rain, obviously. I don't run a lot of road, but it's fun trying to run in the rain.
it's a challenge. Big challenge on their end. Yeah, I like the transitions too, but I'm the goofy one that whenever we do 24-hour races, I like to drive when the sun's coming up. It is really neat to drive into the darkness, into the daylight. I don't know what it is about it. I absolutely love it. So I'm like the weirdo that always volunteers for the 3, 4 o'clock in the morning shift.
Early morning
So
stints. Yeah.
yeah, but nothing beats that. I guess maybe because I've gone to a couple of endurance races and as the sun's coming up, the tracks are, I mean, it starts your day, that, I don't know. There's just something about it that's uh just cool. So in fact, I woke up watching Lamar today from the daylight to nighttime transitions. But anyway, back to the your game changers. Um, the the tire wear, we don't have that. We've got it on most cars. Is there any other cars other than the BRL cars that you tend to drive that you do see that tire wear?
One of the other leagues I'm running in, we run a Xfinity, we run a Next Gen. We're running the Arc, just started with the new Arca.
Isn't
So
that a
yeah,
great car?
that is a fun car so far. You're seeing that too with those. You get the tire. If you
Yeah.
abuse it too early, you're going to pay for it in the long run because it just won't want to turn anymore.
Do you venture out into the open lobbies and race out? Any of the series out there that you run or tend to
Not as
just kind of
much as I
gravitate to?
used to. Yeah, not as much as I used to because the other league that I do run, they run 4 nights a week. And I try
Oh
to
wow,
run as all of them I can. It's like a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or Sunday. Yeah, Sunday.
wow, that gives you a lot of seat time,
Yeah.
and yeah, that allows you to kind of keep in rhythm and all that stuff. Us guys that run once, maybe twice a week, um, we have a hard time keeping up with you guys because you guys got that rhythm and everything going. You talked about, you've done some road racing and that, and ventured out into the rain and that. So is there, for you, if you do road race, is there a particular car or series you gravitate to?
Um, for road racing, I like production-based cars. So you're looking like the P Cup is pretty spec series.
Are you in the
GT3s.
are you in the Skidder Creek Drivers Club?
I am in the league, but I haven't been able to run too many of the races again. This is just because being a left coaster and most of the leagues are East Coast based
Yeah,
or on that East Coast time. Even if
yeah.
they have a 5 o'clock or 8 o'clock PM start for them, it's still 5 o'clock for us. So it can make it a challenge
I've
sometimes to get those
Either
start
you got
times
to cut out of work or miss the race, huh?
or
That's a tough
get in
choice.
trouble.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or get in trouble
that
for not making dinner or something.
See, I've always said the world should tick to Central Time Zone, or kind of bring everybody a little closer. But um, yeah, those spec series cars, those are. You know why? I don't know what it is, but I find those like really hard to drive. I like the GT3. I even like the DPI cars. What about those spec series? Do you find fun and challenging?
Well, it's kind of like, it's kind of like a fixed setup kind of thing. Everybody's on the same machinery, like unlike the GT3s where they're all bought, they're all a little bit different. They got their strengths and weaknesses. So with the P cups and the production based cars, you pretty much everybody's at least in the same envelope, and then you can figure out what works for yourself from there.
Yeah, but the driving part, I'm used to, I guess those cars, with because like I said, the GT3, you step on the brakes, the cars stop. I always have a hard time in those production cars because you're like, it's not stopping. I always get myself into trouble on those cars.
P cup is with the no traction control and no ABS. It's a big change to go from a GT3 to one of those because you don't have that little safety net to help you with
Yeah.
braking or off the corner or anything.
Yeah, that's a good point about the ABS because with them and without them is a night and day difference. I know that you also have got some real world racing experience. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's we used to run it at our semi-local track in the Central Valley here in California called Madera Speedway. And
Oh, okay, I know where Madera is.
yeah. So we used to run the MSTs, which are they call them modified Super Toyotas,
Yeah.
based off their, I guess, the equivalent of their hobby stock, which were all Toyota Corollas. So the MSTs, you take the running gear out of a Toyota Corolla, basically the motor, front, rear transmission, and rear end, and put it into a tube chassis. And so we're a couple of seconds quicker, but it's basically the same setup. Like a 3/4 scale Grand American modified or UMP modified, it would be similar to on the asphalt track there in Madera.
Yeah, which is a bit of a bull ring there too. I think they got a figure 8 in that track too, don't they?
No, the infield is grass. It's a short third mile. They call it a
Oh, you
third
know what
mile.
I'm thinking? I'm thinking of Lake Havasu. I bet you that's what I'm thinking. There's two of them out because that track looks a lot like Madera. I know. The only reason why I know about Madera is that actually comes on TV here.
Yeah, they're
Um,
on. They have they're I think on Flow Racing or something like that.
well,
I'm
no,
not
I
sure.
mean I get it straight on cable. It's on like my
Oh, okay.
FTV or something like that on here. So I've
All
watched a
right.
lot of races there. I've never been to that track, but I've watched late models there quite a bit. And the ARCA, I think the ARCA West have come in there a couple three times.
Yeah.
So
See, it's probably been 15 years since we've been there.
wow.
Once my girls got to old enough where they started doing their extracurricular activities, we didn't. It was so we had to make the decision. We stopped racing to do all their stuff. But
Wow.
we did that for about 10 years, roughly.
What do you miss about it?
Ah, the smells. I mean, hot tires, burnt race fuel, burning clutches, hot brakes, just the
It's funny.
smells in the sound,
I have told my wife they've got candles for every smell under the freaking planet. If they ever came up with one from a racetrack, I would clear the shelf off.
They do.
Are you kidding me?
If you search for burnt rubber candles or race fuel candles, you can find them.
No.
No joke.
Oh. Now I know what my wife's getting for her birthday. That's in the middle of August, so I do end of VGN right after that, or end of this show after that. My whereabouts will become sketchy, but um, the the driving. How much of what you learned behind the wheel there when you picked up iRacing? I mean, did you transfer a lot of that, or did you have to kind of? I mean, I know you don't have the G's and the seat of your pants, but
Yeah,
I do find that some of the stuff at least for me, should transfer.
I think the biggest things for me that were able to transfer was being able to learn that you don't focus on that car right in front of you. You don't look at
Yeah.
that bumper. You got to look down. You got to look through the corner. You got to look 3, 4 cars down. to make sure that you can be prepared for anything that's going to
Yeah.
happen. Being able to try to read the way somebody's running, if they're, if they
Yes.
tend to be here, maybe you can go there because they tend to go out this way. So it's like reading traffic on the freeway. It's kind of the same thing. You got to read the traffic when you're in the race, when you're on the racetrack.
Yeah, that anticipation is 50% of what can get you to victory lane. I mean, you got, understand where they're going to go, what they're going to do. And that's always kind of, I can see things, but iRacing being what it is, and there's a whole lot of folks that have never set foot in a race car, which is perfectly fine. This is a great opportunity for them to experience something close to it. But you don't normally, I mean, there's occasion, but you don't normally have guys zigzagging or taking, using 3 lanes to get through a
Yeah,
corner and stuff like that. And, not to get too lecture based here, but that's just a really, I don't think guys really understand that, when you commit into a corner, stay committed. And, if you want to adjust on the next corner, fine, you adjust, but adjusting mid corner causes problems. And,
yeah.
yeah, that
I
that's
think
been the biggest.
yeah, some of that probably comes down to the fact that a lot of guys, people are on, single monitors, so you don't have
Yes.
that peripheral awareness that you have in real life. You can't really kind of see out of the corner of your eye. You
Yeah,
can't, feel
100%.
that car next to you. You don't. So some of that gets taken away. That's what you really have to learn how to
Just out of
understand.
curiosity, what do you use?
I have triple monitors. I've had them
Okay,
for about 5 years now. It's a big
nice.
changer for me. For me, it was a big changer. Just being able to get the front of that car, and you can kind of see the front of the car next to
Yes.
you in your peripheral right here, as opposed to everything you can see is just right here.
Yeah, I started on a single monitor, and I don't know how many times I wrecked myself going into a corner, not knowing where there are. So I'll go a little higher, and like we talked about, getting out of the groove, and you know. But I'm in VR now, and that's yeah, that the submersion on that. I've really wanted to try triples, but like you said though, you can see that other car all of a sudden. So what really helps is on restarts because you can pull right up, right down, fire with, um, huge difference maker.
Yeah, especially if you're outside pull, you can at least stay within that tire. You're
Yep.
fairly close. You got to hopefully hear him, but you still at least you got that opportunity to get stay with him decently off the restart.
Yeah, I mean, what was really wild, and we the BRL ran their dirt late model series on Friday, and the heat race. I remember in that race alone, I was taking and looking over my shoulder. I'd get in the corner and turn back, see where people are, and I thought about that after that, waiting for the B there, and I was like, man, single monitor, I would have never been able to do this. So, what other equipment do you use? Wheelbase, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we've done the upgrade path over the years. Actually, right now I'm using a SimuCube Pro V1, which is the two power things bricks. It's really nice. I I've been really
Direct,
really
direct,
happy with that.
direct drive, then I assume.
Yeah, direct drive. I've got a set of old HPPs that I picked up third hand. They're the hydraulic pedals,
Hmm.
and yeah, those are the two main things that right there. Got a couple of wheels. You
What
get
was
into it, you start collecting things.
you do? I was just gonna ask that. What was the first thing that you upgraded when you started?
First thing was a set of pedals. I went to a set of load cell pedals from my Momo Red set. Potentiometer, just the gas and brake, and I got a set of I don't know if you remember them, but the Proto Sims.
Oh, I
He was
do. I remember that name. I don't remember
yeah, he
exactly
was
what they were.
he was a single man shop, and he started making some pedals, and I was able to get in on a batch of those before they went out. And those were for their price, and they were really, really good pedals.
Wow,
So that was the
nice.
second set.
So, which upgrade of yours do you think made the biggest difference on track?
Honestly, it's probably going to a non-potentiometer pedal, whether it's load cell or hydraulic, and triple screens, be having that bigger view and seat time. Seat time is the biggest thing because there are
Yeah,
plenty of guys that are single monitor G27s, G29s that kick my butt. You know.
yeah, it's getting everything dialed in because it's kind of funny. You talk about real world and you're under there, adjusting shock rates and you're moving this bar or whatever. Tire pressure in and out. But I don't think people, I mean, most of the folks that watch us probably do sim race, but those that don't, I think they'd be very surprised on how much tinkering that comes with this equipment to get it to
Yeah.
you so you can get the feel that you want when you're driving. I cannot think of how many hours that I have spent trying to dial the car in and be ready for it. So when this next coming season, you talked about you got some the tickets and all that for was it baseball or was it soccer?
Sure, yeah. Of course.
Uh, so you ever get back to the racetrack? I mean, not driving, but at least spectating. Do you ever get to go back and watch races?
It's been a while. The last we went to, where did we go? I think we went to Bristol. Yeah, the last track that we actually went to was Bristol Night Race a few years back,
Oh,
and that
wow.
was the last one. And then we went to Auto Club. I think when it first opened, we've been to obviously Sonoma, Infineon. My wife went back to Daytona with her father for the 500 one year, and we went to Pocono. So we've been to a few tracks. So we've been around.
How about local tracks? You ever get to go and just
Yeah,
you have any desire to
we're
watch
gonna
a local show?
yeah, well, actually, Watsonville Speedway, which is here in Watsonville, it's called Ocean Speedway now, but we get out there occasionally. We go out there and help. It's a dirt track, and they run a what they call the Pettit Shootout, which is a big Grand American modified thing that they pull in cars from all over the country. So we go out there and help my sister-in-law runs the track out there. She runs scoring and timing and a bunch of other
Oh,
things out there.
wow.
So we go out there and help her out. And she runs a lot of the tracks up in Central Valley too. Hanford, where'd she go? Hanford, Delta. So she gets around and runs
Oh,
tracks.
I've raced at Hanford many, 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 many moons ago. I've raced at Hanford. Um, wow, that's really cool. Um, so I take it you're a dirt fan then. Are we going to see you Friday nights
Yeah,
maybe?
that's where we started out. I started out helping my cousin out because he got a street stock and started running out there at Watsonville.
Oh,
And then
nice.
he moved up to a Grand American modified and ran it there. But then he went to move to asphalt and went up to Madera, and that's how we got involved and started racing over out at Madera. But my wife and I want to head out to Kern County and watch Kern go out to Kern Raceway one of these weekends before the season ends.
Yeah, pick a CRA race that comes in there that's non-winged. That'll be a good show out there. Um, any chance that we'll see you run Friday nights, with the dirt late models?
Uh, I might give it a shot if I can get it. But those start even earlier, don't they? I think that's like 4:30
No,
my
they
time.
start at
Oh, they moved the time.
9 Eastern. So
Oh,
that's still, right there. But yeah, the race will start at 9 Eastern.
okay. That's a little doable. Maybe I'll have to see if I'll have to come out and see if they run.
Yeah, come on out. We've had good turnouts and a lot of fun, and some guys learning, some guys got it down. So there's a little pockets to run everywhere with that group. That's for sure. Um, when when you got into iRacing, what made you to check it out? Did you just see it somewhere? And then when you did, what car did you kind of really like right off the bat?
Actually, I remember getting into the Hawaii servers and trying to race, but I couldn't because I didn't want to have my wife yelling at me for a $400 phone bill to run on the Hawaii servers. So then I saw they were going to start iRacing up, so I signed up as soon as I was able to, and it took a couple of years before I was able to start running. But by that time, it was mostly the short tracks because I had to start out as rookies. Ran a lot of Mazdas, the late model, super late model. I really love that old super late model. I think that was one of the best sounding cars on the service at that time.
That was
And
my
then they
first win in iRacing, was in one of
and then
those.
they took that, they took it out, replaced it with the current version. But that was, to me, was the car to run, was the super late model.
You remember when we run those at Charlotte? They would all every season they'd run those cars at Charlotte. Man, it was like Daytona or Talladega. Um, I don't know why that's always stuck in my mind. I thought it was fun. I think most guys didn't think that one was as fun, but man, I loved doing that. But the short tracks, that's I guess that's too also why you're into BRL and all that, because that's strictly short track. Um, when you do the NASCAR stuff, because I mean, not that's not all short track. How about those tracks? Do you have a favorite kind of track with those? Because most
Oh,
of those you can pick a lane.
yeah. Again, I'm like the shorter tracks. Richmond, Iowa, Dover's fun. Um, some of the 1.5s are, some of them aren't too bad. I really don't like pack racing. I'm not a big fan of Talladega and Daytona. I mean, they're fun to run, but just you're so dependent on everybody else being around you that
Too
it's
much out of your control.
you know. So, and then we've run with those we've run, like we just ran the the Chicago street course, and that was, talk about a hair-raising, bumpy, hit the bump wrong and you're bouncing off this wall, then you hit that wall after you bounce off that one. It's interesting. It was an interesting race. We ran those in the Xfinity cars, and that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, iRacing's done a few street circuits here lately. I mean, Belle Isle came in, Long
Yeah, that
Beach
was
has now come in, and man, those are tough tracks. I
they
mean,
are.
really tough. You know, I like the European tracks because you get a lot of the elevation changes and things like that. There's a couple here in the States that are somewhat like that. Those road or street courses, should I say, they're flat.
Yeah,
Um, but they're
pretty much.
but
And
there's not a lot of room for error in those tracks.
yeah,
So
Long Beach is like that too. With getting around
yeah,
the
fountain.
fountain in the center with a dolphin. Yeah, that's always fun. And
Yeah,
that hairpin,
and then the
the
hairpin.
hairpin to
Yeah,
get onto the front straight.
yeah. As many times as you've been on that, can you imagine what those F1 guys do at Monaco? Because that's like half as wide as even those tracks that we can kind of somewhat visualize on iRacing.
Yeah, that's why it's just follow the leader on those tracks for them. It's just nowhere to
It
pass,
is.
really. You only do it in the pits or somebody has a breakdown or something.
Yeah. Well, speaking of F1 though, I mean, outside of we've kind of established you like the short track racing, things like that. Are there other motorsports that you follow, like why, like I can't even talk now. Like to watch on TV?
Yeah, actually, when I first got interested in racing, it was more on the road course side. That was like the time when you had Sneva, Al Unser, Foy,
Holbert, Holbert,
Andretti, Ray Hall, Willie T. Ribbs, Hans Stuck. Those are the
Hans
races that I
Stuck.
watched. Those are the
Yeah,
ones
boy,
I watched. Those Trans Am races with the Audis and the Capris and the
yep,
Mustangs, and
yeah.
it was
That's funny thing is
that's what I dreamt of one day. Hopefully, getting out and getting on the road course. Of course,
that's
then you
what I
find out
like.
how much it costs to actually run a car. So, and then, but
Hans
yeah, those were,
Hans
and then
Stuck.
yeah,
That's a name.
and my cousin started racing, and we got into oval. That's when I transitioned over to more oval and stuff, and watching NASCAR and doing that.
Well, guys like Stuck and Harley Haywood and Al Holbert and man, I loved watching those guys. Those old IMSA races were fabulous.
Yeah,
But
those are
those
some
guys are long gone now. So, are you still following, the IMSA or the
on
WEC
the
or Trans Am?
on the peripheral when they come out here to Laguna Seca, which is like 20 minutes away. We keep up on them, and the Indy when they come out to Laguna, we keep up on what's going on over there. And so it's not as much now, but we're good now that the kids are older. My oldest one's down in Long Beach doing her thing. My youngest one's getting ready to finish up her 4-year degree at UC Santa Cruz. So once they're fully gone, I think we might end up driving a little more and doing that kind of stuff.
All right, I've got to ask, since you're 20 minutes from Laguna, I'm sure you've taken the opportunity to go stand in the corkscrew and
Oh
watch
yeah,
cars go through that. What
yes.
does that look like in real life?
It's just something because you go up a hill, walk up to the hill, and then you can kind of get to the little thing. So all you see is the top of the corkscrew, and then they come down. So all you hear them coming up the straight, and then all of a sudden they just pop up over and they're down in the corner going into the. It's really amazing, and it's just like the guys say when you're in iRacing when you're driving that corkscrew, there's that tree. You see that
Yeah.
as soon as you cut the crest, you see that tree, you turn right. And that's exactly what these guys are doing. They crest, you can see them pointed at that tree, and then boom, they're headed down. It's just something else. And that's one of my most favorite memories was my high school auto shop class. We got to go out there to Laguna on a Friday practice during IMSA, and I just the this Jaguar V12 sound screaming through Laguna was just something. It was just that prototype was probably
Yeah.
80, 81. And that's
Yeah,
V12 was just
V10,
something to
V10,
hear.
V12 era, man. Those
Mhm.
were those were some beasts. um, yeah, man, I would have loved to have seen that too because some of the aero that they had on those cars. I don't want to say they didn't have to stop for that corkscrew, but I have to imagine that they were probably getting through it a little bit more on the razor's edge than probably the cars today because I think they've
Yeah,
kind of while there's a lot of technology and lap times might come through, but some of those turbocharged V12s back then, I mean, I would have to imagine even if it's a matter of getting to the bottom of that corkscrew, taking off, watching them fire it, and it would go.
it's just the sound was just something. It's just it was just wild. 10, 8, 9,000 RPM V12s. Jesus, it's like something to hear.
I can imagine. Now in today's world, if someone was to offer you a ticket to go watch out there to any of the shows they have that come out there, the IndyCar, the IMSA, what would be your favorite one to go see? Which one would you choose?
Probably IMSA multi-class.
The
That's just to get
multi-class?
all those different vehicles out there, and you get a lot of different cars, a lot of different driving. Everybody's got to move around, get around everybody.
Yes.
And we were actually, my wife works at the local hospital here, and she volunteered to go out to the first aid station on one of those. So we got in there, and we were standing, we get to watch the race from down by the final corner going onto the main straight, onto the front stretch. So it was pretty nice getting to watch that.
Oh, that's a good braking zone too. So you probably saw a lot
Yeah.
of action
Mhm.
right there too. So yeah, that is really, really cool. It's cool that your wife is a racing fan. That's
It makes it a
I
lot
I
easier.
I was about to say, yeah, I kinda that's almost like hitting the jackpot, isn't it? I mean, you won the lottery, man. You win.
Yes. I mean, and then sometimes it's punishment. Go in the garage and go race. I don't want you. You're bothering me. So,
How long you guys been married?
going on 29 years.
Well,
The October
congratulations.
be
That's
29.
awesome.
Thank you.
That is awesome. I think that racing, that's probably the secret. If everybody, both spouses liked racing, everybody would be married for forever. Just
Yeah,
that's how it'd be.
it does help.
Um, so I understand too, you got two daughters.
Yes. The
Well,
oldest one's
congratulations.
yeah, the oldest one's 27. She's working at the Long Beach VA right now. She's doing works in prosthetics and orthotics. So,
Oh,
which
wow.
is really interesting. I think that's another interesting thing.
Yeah, yeah, talk
That's
about making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, that's
Holy
what I told her.
cow.
Yeah, you're actually really having an impact on other people's lives and being able to help them continue on and do whatever they need to do. She was telling me that one time she was working with a Paralympian who I think it was a leg injury. She was helping her work. They were working on her prosthesis for her leg. So that's really interesting. And then surprisingly, they even helped out. They've done animals. They've done legs and things for dogs and things like that.
Really?
Yeah. So they
Oh,
do
wow.
quite a bit. And then my
Wow.
youngest daughter here is going to be going to UCSC to finish up her degree. She's doing something in chemistry. I don't know. It's just over my head. I have no idea what the hell. Both of these kids are way
That's all
smarter
you
than
need to say, because even if you knew and you try to explain to me
me.
right away, yeah, no, no. Well, it still sounds impressive, and that's the important part.
Yes,
Anybody
it
asks
does.
you what you do and you say I'm a chemist, usually you don't have to explain. They just go, "Oh wow," and they're too
Yeah.
scared to ask questions. So she'll be pretty safe not having to explain anything. But nobody will say, "Oh, what?" Um, what kind of dogs do you guys got?
We have one miniature Australian Shepherd and
Oh, I
one,
had an Australian Shepherd.
yeah, and the
Love
other
that
is
dog.
we're not sure what she was. She's a mix. Looks like she's got
She's a mutt.
some type of water dog in her, but she's about 52 pounds. She's the bigger of the two. But that dog is just lazy and scared of everything. The other one will the other one will chase the ball until he collapses. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the Australian one. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's then you get the ball. You got to wear a glove because the ball gets
he gets
just
all, yep,
yeah,
yep.
yep. I've been there, done that. Um, well, it's always good to know you got a dog in the house. So if you ever get robbed, they're gonna just go, "Yep, jewelry's in that drawer right over there. Just leave me alone."
Look, you got a ball, you got a ball, come on in. You can,
Yep,
do what you
yep,
want. The other one's
exactly.
hiding in the other one will be hiding in the room.
That's awesome. Um, Well, Mark, we've talked on a few different things here, and one thing you kind of forgot to ask you going back is what got you into racing? I mean, what was it? Just your friends? You had said, hey, they were out here, so you went, or did you start like at a young age? And were watching, like you said in high school, you were watching.
Yeah, I think it was I always kind of been mechanically inclined, and I always liked airplanes and cars, and so the natural evolution of that is they're going to race them. You got the airplane races in Reno and stuff like that, and then you got the auto racing. So it's kind of an evolution, and I just started, like I said, I always was interested in more on the road racing at that point, and IMSA and Trans Am kind of cars, and the Indy cars was really the kind of thing. 500 was always a must watch, and when they used to run out at the old airfield, in Milwaukee or whatever it was, and that kind of stuff, and that's what got me into racing.
Because being out in California, I've always, whenever I've gone out there, the culture is with racing is unique. It's like, because out there, drag racing was king. Everybody loved drag racing. You had Perdome and those guys putting on match shows, and not even with the NHRA, but going to towns, you know, just lighting them up, and thousands of people would go. But it's always been, drag racing, midget racing's always was really big out there, and IMSA, um, and everybody loved. Um, Long Beach because of the history there with F1, IndyCar, so that's always, you guys have always had that crown jewel, but you know, it's like you guys enjoy race, and I know this is gonna really upset a lot of people, I'm sure, but I'm gonna say it anyway. It's like California out there, folks enjoy racing. I mean, just enjoy it. Out here on the East Coast and the South, it's a religion. I mean, I'm not that anyone takes it more serious than another. It's just it's more ingrained in the culture, and I know it's probably because you guys can make the choice. Do I go to the beach today? Do I go to the mountains? I mean, it's that's one of the cool things about Southern California to live in and out in that area is you've got so many things you can go do. You mentioned airplane racing. You've got to tell me about that. I've seen it on TV a couple times. It looks like the craziest freaking thing ever. I would love to go and watch them some point.
Yeah, the
What was
the
that like?
I've never been to one, but I've
Oh, I
watched
thought
a
you
few
went.
times. No, I've never been, but I've watched a
Oh,
few times the Reno air races.
hmm.
It's really really interesting. We do have a air show here in Salinas that they have the California Air Show, and we get the Thunderbirds, sometimes snowbirds and stuff like that.
I've
And
seen
that's
the
really interesting to
Thunderbirds.
go and see, watching those
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
That's
but the
fun.
ones I want to see the ones that got the poles and they're like doing this stuff
Yeah,
for all,
that's
weaving around, racing each other. It's
mhm.
having having heat races with planes just seems utterly insane
It
to
is.
me.
It's from what I've
Red
seen
Bull,
online. It's just
yeah. Uh, I guess one of us are going to have to go see it, then come back on here, and we're going to have to talk about it
there you
because
go. Deal.
that's that is yeah, that's a bucket list thing for me to go see. Um, well, cool, Mark. I've gotten really, I really appreciate your time here on Father's Day. We know we all pre-record this, but I hope everybody enjoyed their Father's Day, even though it was a
Me
couple
too. I
days
hope you
ago.
guys did.
But you know, the one thing I do like to kind of wrap the show up here a little bit is talk about where we're going to see you next. I know BRL this week is going to be at Martinsville. Do you think you're going to make Martinsville?
I hope to, but I looking at the calendar, I think we have a soccer match here with our Monterey Bay FC, so we'll probably be there.
Well, regardless, what is your views of Martinsville? I think it got rescanned too. Wasn't that one of the ones that got rescanned here? So I think
I
it's kind of
just
a different,
they
little
just
different
did
look to it.
Iowa. I think they may have updated the graphics, but I
Yeah,
personally I like Martinsville. I think a lot of people give it too much hate, but that's
mm,
because like anything, you get the racing you get the racing you make.
yeah,
If you're gonna do dumb stuff, you're gonna have dumb races. It's that simple, you know. Martinsville is a track where you gotta wait and wait and wait, and then when that opening, you gotta take it. Otherwise, you end up with like people complain about on the forums. Oh, we ran 100 laps and 60 of them were under yellow. Well, if you didn't run like an idiot, you wouldn't have 60 laps of yellow, you know.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that's usually a two-person equation because that
mhm.
opportunity comes and you put your nose in there, but that person realizes they make a mistake and then they try to yank down and correct it, and all
Yeah,
of a sudden,
exactly,
yep,
exactly.
yeah. But what? Tell me, what do you think? What do you think it takes to go fast there? I mean, you know, if you want to be up on that, what I like to call that ego sheet in practice, how do you bust a fast lap off there?
It's really your exit, I think. Not because
On
everybody,
the first straightaways.
people tend to overdrive that entry, and that just kills your center speed and your exit speed. So you really got to concentrate on hitting a good smooth entry, rolling it through the center, and then getting back on. And that's what's going to get you a good lap time is your exit speed, not your entries into the corner.
Well, if you are able to show up, let's call you a shot. How do you think you'll do on Saturday?
Oh well, let's see. I missed the invert because I had a bad race. I got some wheel damage, so I'll probably be in the mid back. So I think I could probably get up into the top 10. I was
Top 10.
hoping for a top 5. But yeah,
So,
if
I mean,
it's
would that be your goal then to get work back into the invert, or is your goal to go in there and like you said, hey, let's knock down a top five?
yeah, the big goal would be get into the top 5. That would be my personal goal because I know I'm not going to get a championship because I'm not able to make all the races.
Yeah.
And I like that Lowell has gone to the no drop system, so it rewards the guys who are there every week, make every race. It gives them the opportunity to get that championship, or before it just counted your 8 out of 12 or 10 out of 12 or whatever it was, you know. And getting rid of the fast repair, I think, was a nice thing too. So people, hopefully, it makes them a little more aware that you can't do
Yes.
that, you know.
I love not having that fast repair, well, except for Friday when I got junked. But that was kind of a downer. But yeah, that fast repair thing on Saturdays has been. I think it's actually been a game changer because a few times I've been on the track since he's done that. Um, I think the racing. Yeah, I talked about guys kind of being a chicane when they're driving. I've noticed guys actually hold their line a little bit better. I mean, there's a few folks out there that could probably keep them a little straighter, but that's racing for you. But
Yeah, it
hey, I
is.
got one more thing for you here. We're going to do a
Okay,
green white checker real quick, and I hope I can pull these out of thin air because we were talking before that I've done this whole show not scripted. It's the first one I've ever done not scripted. So,
a little
all
more
right.
organic that way.
Well, yeah, a little more nerve-wracking not to see some topics and hey, we're here, we go here, we can go there. So, God knows what this is going to look like on Tuesday. I feel like I should apologize in advance, but thank God it's not our first show. All right, first green white checker. IMSA in the 1980s or IMSA in the 1990s? Which one would you want a ticket to go see? They're at Laguna Seca.
Got to be the '80s. It's just
80s.
the all the different manufacturers that were out there and all the different cars and it's just that was just pure raw horsepower, and low tech. Everybody no ABS, no traction control. It's like that Mark Donahue quote: "If you can't leave black marks from the first exit of the corner to the next corner, you don't have enough horsepower." you know.
Never heard that. That's awesome. Okay, the second one. Um, this is gonna be a little more complicated here, maybe, but if you had to choose between getting back in a real car or getting the most tricked out sim that you've ever had, you can run everything, one of those nice motion seats, which one do you pick?
At this age, I'd have to go with the sim. But if I was
Okay,
younger,
I was gonna
you
say,
know,
let's say all things equal and you're in good shape and you can handle either one.
I'd love to get back on the track just to try it, just to do it again a few more times. That's just the visceral being there, feeling the bumps, feeling the smells, the sights, the
Yeah.
sounds, interacting with the people in the pits and hanging out together, and that's where it's at.
Here's a quick question. What do you think now if let's just say someone pulled up in your driveway, you got a brand new car, you get to go race it, right? What do you think you could take from the sim back to the real track?
I think I've learned the patience that I may not have had when I was younger. The understanding that you really, everybody says it, but until you do it, you're actually really racing the track and the conditions, and the competitors, the other cars just happen to be there to provide obstacles. But that's what it really comes down to is managing your race and taking care of your stuff, as they always say, and that's the biggest thing, I think, is the patience to get to the front. Not get to the front now, but get there when you can get there.
That's actually good because you see now you start seeing people that like William Byron ran iRacing,
Mhm.
took off. I forget the guy that runs the trucks that just won the championship. Ty Majeski.
Oh, Majeski,
You're-
yeah.
Yeah, you're seeing guys going the other direction.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that's an interesting take there. The last one, I've got a plane ticket and I got a set of racing tickets. What is the one motorsport event in the world that if you got free tickets, free airline, everything paid for, what race do you go to?
Oh, I'm thinking maybe 24-hour Le Mans, just
I'm on.
to say been there and watched it and been there. And I'd also like to maybe we can get out to Daytona 24 one time too.
Yeah, that I've done. That is awesome. But yeah, Lamar. There's a part of me too that's Spa. I'd be really torn. I think to go watch that GT because I got a 24-hour GT3 race out
Yeah,
there
it's
too.
well, even the old Nürburgring, yeah, the full track, the full 12 miles worth of Nürburgring is would be
I forgot about
interesting.
Nürburgring. I like to drive that. They have open track days where you go
Yeah,
out there and drive.
yeah,
I think I'd rather do that than go to a race.
I think
But
they even set up you can rent a car just to drive on the track.
yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think I probably would choose that actually over racing. But yeah, my wife would probably rather me watch. That's for sure. But hey, Mark, I really appreciate taking time out here and visiting with me for a little bit here and being on the show. And I can't wait to have you back. And man, we made it unscripted. Everything else, we made it. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hey, thank you for having me. This has been of joy, and old age over a script, right?
That's right. I've done this enough to where I think and I'm never going to do autopilot again, but nerve-wracking. I was gray before the show. When I take this hat off, I'm hoping my hair is still there and it did just fall out here because I've been a little stressed about it. But um, hey, good to see you, and I look forward to racing you this season some.
Yeah, it looks good. Hopefully I can make some more once our soccer season here ends down and we'll get all that straightened out, and going. And I got to thank Lowell for running the BRL for as long as he's been running it to give us an opportunity to run there. It's been fun. Um, the other league I run in, I don't know if it's triple bypass racing. If you guys are interested, come check it out. There's 4 nights a week. Good, really
Which
good
cars?
bunch of guys
Which
there.
cars? Which cars? Get real quick
Currently
so they
it's
know.
Xfinity, Next Gen, and the ARCA.
Okay.
But now that the new Gen 4 is out, we'll probably be transitioning one of those series over to the Gen 4 because
Oh, I forgot those came out.
yeah. So the next gen is pretty much every year, every season. Xfinity is pretty much every season. The Tuesday night with last season was late models. This season it's the ARCA, so we may end up transitioning that into the Gen 4.
Oh,
So we'll
fun.
see how it goes.
Well, awesome, man. Well, good luck with that, and we will see you definitely down the road somewhere, man.
Most definitely. Thank you, John. Take care. You too, Ryan. Thanks for producing this for us.
Ryan's in the background. He can hear you. And hey, guess what, folks? Thank you very much for joining us this week here on VGN Weekly. Until next week, I will see you then.
Take care.
Coming up on the Virtual Grip Network, the RLR Skidder Creek SK Modified Series will be live from Thompson Speedway on Thursday, June 19th at 8 p.m. The BRL Modifieds and late models from Martinsville Speedway will air on Saturday, June 21st at 7:45 p.m. The OBRL Yesteryear Cup Series goes live at 8 p.m. from Pocono Raceway on Sunday, June 22nd. And catch the next episode of VGN Weekly at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, June 24th, all times Eastern. You can see our full schedule and more at virtualgrip.net.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of VGN Weekly. Join us next time for race recaps, interviews, and much, much more. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. This has been a production of the Virtual Grip Network and the Skidder Creek Motorsports Group.